productive discussion to have some conversations with people from the industry or from the Commission or even the consultants that organized a little bit this event. So our final panel for the conference is going to be a wrap-up of what we discussed in the breakout rooms. So we are a little bit over time, but it was a quite well-deserved coffee break, so we won't be long. We want just to share with everyone else what are the main points that emerged from the breakouts. So I would like to call on stage then one representative for each of the breakouts. So I would thus ask to join me here, Andrea, Christian, Patrizia, and Martin. You can take your seats here in the panel. All right, so I would perhaps start in order, maybe asking each one of you to briefly summarize what were the main points, the main considerations in each of your breakouts. Of course, it would be interesting to hear if some of these can be considered general questions, doubts, issues, challenges, if you want, but also those that were more sector specific. So I leave it to you for a few minutes each to enlighten the audience. Then, yeah, I would start with Andrea, if that's okay.
Yeah, thank you very much, Federico. I think, and nice to be back here. I will be quick. That was a very interesting session, I think. We had more or less 15 people in the room, representing different stakeholders, small companies, big companies, consultants, other Carbon Management Europe and other. So very, very interesting. We had a few points. The first part, Carbon Management Europe, formerly ZEP, which is the European platform for industrial carbon management, update us on the policy framework and the evolution of the policy framework. Very interesting to see how much the European Commission and the institutions in Europe have progressed in terms of policies from 2019 up to now. It's a plethora of policies that have been launched and are being implemented. So the EU framework is progressing, but still fragmented. It was pointed out by Americ from Carbon Management Europe that there is still a need of coordination among all these different levels of policies already at EU level, and when we add the member state level, things get even more difficult, because then you need the member states to not only comply with the European regulation and framework, but also to develop their own regulatory framework, as we heard this morning by some of the industries. The second point in the debate stemming from the presentation from Carbon Management Europe was the difference between carbon capture and storage and carbon capture and utilization. There is still a gap for CCU to be recognized. There is still work to be done both at policy level and implementation. CCS has benefited from a more, let's say, red tape, but it's still not very, it was not still very fast, but it's now maturing much faster. CCU is catching up, but there are still some policy and implementation elements to be, let's say, solved before considering CCU value and contribution to climate targets. Another point that was mentioned was permitting. Permitting is a very important point for all the projects that we've heard today, not only the CCUS. So I think this is a more general point that touches for everyone. Even there, Imeric pointed out the European Commission is actually addressing specifically permitting with several initiatives and policies. Then we presented the LEADS project, and we gave the room to two of our partners. There is TNO, Soraya is here, and Thomas that unfortunately left, but that pinpointed some of their lesson learned, their experience in the LEADS project. So for TNO, as you probably know, is it RTO from the Netherlands. So they are more on the R&D and developing the technology to a certain TRL. Then for them, the objective is to license these technologies to an EPC or to third parties. So for them, the three main points, lesson learned are first, the ownership. It was mentioned this morning, the ownership needs to be clear, and probably there's a switch of ownership from an RTO or a technology provider developing the technology to who is going to take the technology integrated into the industrial plant. The second point is the market dynamics and the location. It turned out that the very good technology that TNO is working in is interesting for an EPC, but they found clients, so end users in China and India, not in Europe. So that's also to be, is a fact. And the third thing is the business model. It was mentioned several times here, the economics, the business model, very important, but also how it changes, how it matures from the R&D to the full deployment. Thomas from Novis, a small company, he more or less repeated the remarks he made in the plenary, meaning that he pointed out that SMEs are probably penalized in the from the innovation fund because the work to prepare an application is huge for a small company. Versus the possibility to get the funds for their projects. And in the last part, there was a discussion about how much the innovation fund covers CapEx and OpEx. So not only the CapEx from constructions of the industrial plants, but also for the OpEx during the and after the entry into operation. So I think these last points, the SME, but also the ownership, the SMEs, the business model, the OpEx and CapEx, I think they are not only CCUS specific, they can be valuable for all the projects and the project owners. Thank you.
Thank you, Andrea.
Yes, as coordinator for to deploy, we discussed low carbon technology for the energy intensive industry. We had put up 4 different topics for the discussion: investment risks and financing the first industrial plants, business case for low carbon production, permitting, regulation and speed of deployment, market demand for green industrial products. And this, since this is industry perspectives we are discussing, I would very much like to have Mark Oliver Christen, my colleague from to deploy, to say something about what his impression is.
Yeah, thanks, Christian. Yeah, I mean, energy-intensive industries mean that we use a lot of energy. So energy is an important factor of the costs of the actual product. And I think the basics are there that is anyone willing to pay this extra price? If that works, we have a market. We heard about a market. If not, then we have a problem. And it seems that in no sector, regardless, it's chemicals, is it non-ferrous metals, is it steel, is it cement, no one wants to pay this extra. And we have to make sure that we do not have regulations that disfavor production in Europe. Because if we compete against the US and China on some other non-European market, we have a problem. Because CBAM can do some regulation for a while, but the question is, does it really work? In the end, I said it has to be market ready, it has to be a market. So if we have a solution that is consuming less energy, technical solution for the same product, that's always good, because then we could compete. And one other drawback that we have here in Europe is that we have many member states. If we want to have a regulation, as we have heard, yeah, it takes a year or 2 or 3, and then on European level, and then we go to the member states, and they have a little bit different routes. And in China, there's one strong man who says, I want this, in the next week it works. That, of course, is something that we do not want to have. Therefore, I think we just have to live with this diversity. But we have to find some regulation that we really have common ground so we can make Europe great again, let's say. This helps. Investors look at this, as we have heard. They said, yes, it helps us surely when we have a 50, 100 million fund that helps in our costs. But in the end, they also look for the money. They don't care if they invest in cement or rockets or whatever. But you have to offer them the best solution. And there, I think Innovation Fund can help, will help, and hopefully helps in the future. We're looking forward to that. Thank you.
Thank you both very much.
Thank you, Mark.
Thank you very much. Moving on to the H2IF breakout session. So that was for energy storage and hydrogen. Here we started off the session again recapping the amounts of different calls that there are in the Innovation Fund and how the R&I project owners, either in person or online, could participate to these. Growing, one of them is the new one, the new heat auction, where there's a specific clause or a possibility for projects also to implement either electricity or thermal energy storage as part of these. So I say these are still pending and we have to see going forward. We have also provided a bit of an overview on how different hydrogen and battery energy storage projects we're doing. Again, the issue with energy storage as a whole is that it can be quite heterogeneous, ranging from hydropower to batteries to projects also BESS with renewable energy sources. And then after that, we opened to the room for discussion. We had a series of points. Maybe on the more general side were comments or positive remarks towards CINEA and DG CLIMA on how now the Horizon Europe calls do have an extension or an inclusion of how that new project can fit under the Innovation Fund and to scale up. And we've also talked about how much business models are now prerequisite for a lot of innovation actions under Horizon Europe. And that's a positive thing because it means even from the conception of the Horizon Europe project, you're almost thinking about market maturity, which I think was very commended by members of the audience. One interesting comment that was made, which is maybe more applicable to industrial partners, was not to start the project too soon. I think this is broadly applicable to an industrial partner that has either a couple parallel projects that it can leverage, but the learned lesson here was that if with those 3 or 4 months, if you can go all in with a team and problem solve week by week, it can be maybe less diluted than working over months and months and months, if not years. Again, I think more tailored to these big industrial players. There was also the point about using research infrastructure to further develop technological readiness levels. Here we said most of the barriers were not on this side, but that there is still maybe a certain need for some projects to have technological due diligence, which is again a prerequisite for the Innovation Fund. There again, emphasizing this is a common technological barrier. Otherwise, there are many questions about how H2IF and broadly consultants could support. Let's say, we explained how there's specific business and technological and GHG expertise. We know these are the common barriers to an IF application to understand these complex models. And we also explained, under H2IF, we went week by week with some of the applicants to make sure we could help them and support them to get to a stage where they were ready to submit an application for this year's Innovation Fund. The last remark I can also make was, this broader question of what is the degree of innovation. Luckily, I think we'll say across all sectors, as a general comment, there is quite good guidance on the coal fiche, so the the call text. I think it's Annex 3, if I'm not mistaken, that covers this a bit more in detail about what is incremental, etc. Let's say that from the energy storage perspective or from a sector's perspective, it always makes sense to benchmark your projects to the Innovation Fund portfolio so that you can also see what has been funded in the past, how your technology compares to them, because in any case, this is part of the application. There is a part in Part B where you have to make this benchmark to the existing projects. That was the summary of H2IF session.
Thank you. So, yeah, I was in the group, I'm the coordinator of Diamonds for IF, so the group was on renewable energy. Together with us was also Realize, or 2% of the Realize project. We were very few participants, and I would say this reflects some numbers and concerns that we have already spoken today. We have lots of potential as a sector, but somehow few projects. And yes, we had the participation of Benjamin Fisher from RWA Offshore, so he brought to us its experience. They have participated in EF application, but we could summarize like GAG model, GAG saving approach for renewable energy is key points. So we have kind of a suggestion like a broadening of CO2 saving approach. We can maybe find somehow different CO2 calculation or incorporate a new approach for renewable energy. Besides that, we have said maybe could be help and the risk, the whole process, a kind of two-staged application process with simplified model and templates, which could bring down barriers and efforts on both sides and help and helps project which doesn't have a lot of success possibility to stop after a first step or go ahead if the chances are very high. We have also proposed complementary funding instruments which could be established to bridge the funding gap for non-2 related enabling key technology for more European, for more competitiveness. We have said that in renewable energy somehow you have a very innovative technology, but these do not reduce direct CO2 emission. So maybe we could think together a way to incorporate also this technology, be competitive, and also reach all the criteria. Yeah, of course, we had also in our group DG CLIMA and CINEA representatives. We were encouraged to collect again feedback of course from renewable energy sector. We were speaking about renewable energy, but I wanted to bring it also in the room if other applicants or interested companies would like to give us, so not only to me, but all of us, your feedback, your consideration, some suggestion or tools that you could need also from CINEA and for the next calls. We are open, we are very happy to collect them together with our experience in these months of work.
Thank you very much, Patrizia, and all of you. That was very clear and very concise as well, so I'm very happy about that. So maybe before wrapping up on this conversation, I mean, I have quite a clear idea of which were the main issues that emerged, because I think we discussed mostly about issues today, especially in the breakouts, but also some potential tools, strategies, and even solutions to these issues emerged, or even positive aspects of what this process brings itself. But before wrapping up on that, I would like to ask if there is any question for our coordinators, even after the panel discussion, the breakouts, even if you didn't have the time to to ask something, or you were curious about something else, or some final clarifications before we close today's conference. Yes.
Yeah, thank you. Matthijs Soeder, European Commission, DTRTD. Bit following the day, one of the issues which are also limiting maybe in the development of the projects is infrastructure. And I haven't seen many people elaborating on that. Offshore renewables, for instance, beautiful concepts, floating PV here in the room, but also wave, ocean energy, floating wind. But what is blocking? A cable, grid infrastructure. And we see that as well with many onshore projects as well, access to the grids. And these processes are even more lengthy than the permitting procedures for all these different new innovations. And that's something maybe we should also consider, is there sufficient infrastructure for the innovation? And it might be as well a point of attention.
I don't know if there is, yes, please.
The answer is no. There's not enough infrastructure, of course. Otherwise, but it's a very good point. Is because sometimes projects tend to see only part of the whole picture. And something we mentioned in the lesson learned is that you should look at the project always as an ecosystem, meaning that you should go way beyond your fence or your premises or your battery limits, upstream and downstream. And indeed, the infrastructure is a very important point. Be it grid for renewable energy with intermittent and energy storage to manage the intermittency. What was presented by Simone Biondi from Sizable Energies. We do have a challenge, and we're going to have an even bigger challenge when the demand is higher, the renewable energy penetration will be higher, but you have curtailing increasing exponentially. So you do all this effort on the production, and then you don't have the grid responding to that. I think it was mentioned, maybe Christian, you will say something about projects in Norway. Norway has been, they had hydropower for ages, and they have problems that projects are shutting down for this. So there is a big problem. From the funding perspective, I don't know how much you're aware, there is a Connecting Europe Facility Energy that is actually funding the electricity, CO2 networks, pipelines, and things like that. There is a huge debate on, there is some efforts from the Commission to develop the storage for CO2, for example. That was not the case. It was left at national level from the geological institutes. Now Europe wants to develop that because they realize that giving the money to the emitters is one side of the problem. You're solving one part of the problem. Then the emitters, it was said today by the companies, they need a transport and storage. They need to evacuate the CO2. So indeed, the infrastructure is, I think that differences, of course, between electricity, CO2, etc. Electricity is more mature, is more about, is the grid reliable enough to, to get this intermittent and growing electricity. For CO2 is more, is there a pipeline next to me that allow me to do it cost efficiently to evacuate my CO2 without having me to invest in the, as it was in the beginning, to invest in the whole value chain up to the storage. So this kind of question, I think they're open. Christian, maybe.
Yeah, I rightly said, we mentioned this earlier. Infrastructure, grid connections is a hot issue in Norway, at least. I would guess it's that also other places in Norway. And of course, the access to renewable energy or low carbon energy has been good in Norway, but now it's also a fierce competition with establishment of data centers. So the process industry might not be capable of having that they are not willing to or cannot pay the same amount of money as data centers. So, and it's a huge discussion on that in Norway, how to increase the production of renewable power. Are we going to put more turbines on land or in the ocean? Even if we today still have some surplus production of energy, electrical energy from hydropower, it will not be sufficient to sustain both the data center and the process industry. So we have to produce more, but also in parts of Norway, the grid is too weak to serve all the process industry that would like to go for electrification, for instance. And also you have the Brevik CCS project that is going, but what about the next project? Do we have the infrastructure for that? No, we do not. And will they have the same kind of subsidies that has been so far? Probably not. So even the local process industry, we have our office 10 kilometers from Brevik. They struggle finding the way with CCS.
Thank you. Is there some other comments or remarks from the audience? So, I mean, I don't see hands. I don't know if there is anything online, if the session is still ongoing. Okay, so yeah, I guess the conference was tiring enough to finish the questions from the audience. So thank you very much for the questions so far, and thank you for our panelists to answer. So just to wrap up a little bit on what was discussed during this panel breakouts, it's clear that, I mean, as I was mentioning, what was the main point of these conversations was mostly focused on challenges, although there are some strategies, tools, instruments that can be used to overcome them, or at least it come positive out of this whole process. We discussed about what happens in the actual process between research and attempting the deployment. For instance, on the positive side, the fact that Horizon Europe projects are becoming more and more oriented towards the Innovation Fund, or that there are some support tools, such as, I mean, as a small example in the whole ecosystem, the work from the CSAs and the support that CSAs are doing with specific projects to apply to the Innovation Fund. But still, this process remains quite difficult, and this is mostly linked to the fact that, for instance, the Innovation Fund as a specific fund for deployment is often very difficult to access, often for smaller companies, which are the ones that sometimes have the better innovations, but don't have the tools, the resources to proceed to process this change and this upscale until the very end. We discussed in the breakouts also what comes after. So in the very commercial deployment phase, so everything that is more related to the market and the business case, how the market changes or even sometimes doesn't even exist for this kind of innovations, which makes it harder on one hand to plan it in advance, and on the other hand, indeed, to maintain a solid business case even throughout the operations in order to make investors happy, which is also another part of the whole financial sphere of problems when, of course, funding from the Innovation Fund is not enough and needs to be found somewhere else. And finally, everything that is a little bit more related to the wider implementation landscape in terms of, for instance, regulatory barriers and regulations that don't always recognize the innovative technologies that sometimes are even heterogeneous within a specific one single category that is like in energy storage, including a lot of different technologies, or for instance, in the case of permitting processes and access to infrastructure and or existing of infrastructure for these kind of projects. So of course, it's always easy to speak about the challenges. We've been taking notes throughout the whole event, and part of the work that we keep doing until the very end of the lifetime of CSAs, but even after, would be indeed to take note of this and work to find the best strategies based on the inputs received from all stakeholders and the precious conversations from today. So before finally closing today's event, I would like to call back to the stage Jose So for our closing remarks.
Thank you, Federico, and thank you to all that managed to stay until the end. And thank you for giving me the honor to address you as the final words. So I have the challenge here. Again, I mean, it was very interesting. I really appreciate certainly the involvement of all of you. I'm going to highlight a number of things that I really took as a lesson today. Of course, it's obvious. A few things I have to say that, of course, we already knew. It's fine. It's certainly good to have it confirmed by your findings. We clearly know that some of the limiting factors which are not allowing for this easy transfer or to the deployment have not so much to do with the technological part, but with other parts. It was quite an obvious thing to do. But anyway, we just confirm it from you here. We talk about financial issues, market strategies, legal barriers, even infrastructures that were raised now by Matthijs already over there. Yes, there is it's a very complex world out there to imagine that you just finish a research project and it's going to be automatically deployed. That is very naive. I hope that was not the approach of Horizon Europe in the past, but certainly we know that it's not happening so easily. On the contrary, it's happening sometimes. So it's good that sometimes it happens, sometimes it works, because possibly all the factors come together and it works. So that's one thing that we certainly are reflecting a lot in the design of the new programs, in particular on the Clean Industrial Deal. You may have seen that many of these aspects are clearly addressed there. Well, something is to address them and something is to make it happen again. I mean, again, the responsibility is not going to be on the Commission side to put together a beautiful, possibly intelligent program. It's on your side, basically, to come up with very intelligent proposals. That's as simple as it is anyway. So again, ownership was very clearly highlighted. We know as well, it was obvious, that the issue of ownership, when you transit from a research and innovation program, which is basically built on a consortium of many partners with different objectives and goals, and then you just want to focus on one single goal, which is deployment of industrial technologies. This has to be clear since the very beginning, otherwise we're just heading for troubles. And yes, that's something that we possibly missed in the past, and obviously the lesson learned is that we don't have a clear organization and plan since the beginning. We're not going to end up there. That's what also the Clean Industrial Deal call asks for a very clear organization of tasks and responsibilities and a very clear industrial leadership to make sure that this is going to happen at the end. This is something which is clear, it's confirmed by all of you, and it's good. We will take note, and this is something that we will certainly implement. Something that I really want to emphasize as well, and is very useful as well, is that you collectively are working together. It's a challenge, 5 CSAs, different groups, different sectors, different consultants, different business, different ways, different nationalities, Italians and northern people, whatever, it's complicated. But anyway, you manage to talk to each other, more or less, and you are developing things together. So we are having high expectations for the long-term impact of the CSAs will have. In particular, of course, the tools that you have developed, that you will intend to make available to the community, which is something we need to discuss with you how and when, but this is something we will certainly follow with you, and we have some ideas. I will tell you a bit later anyway on that. So that is good. Of course, also on the lessons learned that you are coming out, not only the obvious ones that I just mentioned, but also other more complicated lessons learned that we have learned even in some of the parallel sessions. I was unfortunately facing one of these lessons in the session that I attended on renewables, which was very limited in industrial participation. It was basically Cine and me, and the consultants, and the consortium anyway. So it was a bit disappointing in that sense anyway. And of course, one of the members of the consortium, which was representing an industrial sector anyway. But anyway, that's a lesson learned that we really need to understand why, what happens. Certainly there are reasons. We took consulted reasons. Suitability of the innovation fund for the sector. Okay, maybe it's not suitable. Maybe we have to do something to make it suitable. All this is certainly very important for us to learn. It's a bit strange, of course, that we in Horizon Europe are putting a lot of effort on renewables. The Clean Industrial Deal call that I mentioned, half of it is devoted to clean technologies. So we still believe in the competitiveness of the sector, which is already good news. Maybe, and this is also an important thing, the Clean Industrial Deal doesn't have a greenhouse gas methodology included. Although, of course, you're aiming of climate neutrality. So again, something to look at in particular and to explore these possibilities. Again, One particular success story that was mentioned today was the DREAM project. I don't know if the ladies here still. Hello, DREAM. So again, it's a beautiful dream. You made it. I mean, let's hope that, because your dream will come to reality in 2030. So we will see each other in 2030 when the dream will come reality. But anyway, sorry to play with the words away, because of course, but at least so far so good. You made it there to the dream. You got the Innovation Fund project. And one of the lessons learned that I think is good to share is that, of course, you managed to bring together a lot of people and to convert a lot of different people. And you have regional governments, national governments, private investors, Horizon 2020, Horizon Europe projects, Innovation Fund. Well, great. You managed made it to everybody work together and to get to your dream, which is our dream as well. So that's something we should reflect on, because it's not only the Commission. The Commission is only funding a very small part of it. Most of the things happen in member states, in regions, including not only the funding, but also all the other sides, like legal barriers, permits, all these things does not happen in Brussels. And this is something that you should really, I took this note and I wanted to highlight this dream solution as an example. And I hope we have many others in the future that will possibly repeat that role anyway. Again, something that I emphasized since the very beginning and every time I have met with you, the CSAs, of course, has a very important responsibility in each of the sectors. That's why we have 4, indeed 5, with the 2 renewable ones. Covering each sector, we really expect a lot from them. There is a high expectation still on you. Sorry to tell you, you are not going to get away with something light and easy to give to us. You will need to deliver on what we expect you to deliver. You have already in the good process anyway, but I really urge you to really use the remaining part of the projects to concretize, as Maria said, bring these results concrete to the table, useful to you, to the community, and to the Commission as well. So this is something that I really encourage to do. And this includes also, of course, the tools that you have developed and to make sure that they are known by everybody. In this particular sense, of course, the dissemination to the outside community is important. Today, of course, we know maybe we didn't reach the goal of, as I said in my session, I would have liked to see 10 solar photovoltaic companies and 5 wind, or 10 or 20, and a couple of geothermals and 3 marine technologies and a few others. Well, it was not the case. They are not here. And fortunately, in other sectors, we have a bit more of representation. Something we need to explore. I mean, certainly, voila, it's the strike, fine. It's okay. I mean, it's not, don't take it as a negative thing. We know it's difficult, and I know you don't have the magic tool to make people appear in the show. You just need, if they don't come, they don't come. And there's more we can do. But certainly we need to continue to do some effort, either to bring them here, or if they don't come, we just go to them. And then we use the internet, and we need to reach out to them. Otherwise, if this remains only among the 5 CSS coordinators and CINEA and DG CLIMA and RTD, well, it's good, but it's not going to really have the impact we expected. So please do your best for the final round. Count on us. We are certainly here to help, and I will give you some particular example of how the Commission will intend to help you also there anyway. What else do I have here? Yeah. Well, of course, I talk about the Clean Industrial Deal. Again, we realized that indeed it's a learning by doing anyway. We didn't even wait to get your recommendations to launch the Clean Industrial Deal. So we had this idea, which was good or not. We are addressing many of the issues you're highlighting there. It's good that we are in synchrony. We are really understanding each other. So use it. And of course, you have still a deliverable. You need to deliver these Innovation Fund proposals by each CSA. I know you will. You have 14 plus 3 or whatever it is anyway. It's good. But of course, I mean, adapt to what we see. This is a changing environment. Now we have a Clean Industrial Deal call, which happens to have 600 million euro, focusing on exactly what you're doing, renewables from one side, clean tech and energy-intensive industry, 2 calls, which opens in 2026 and 2027. Repeat it with a very open philosophy. I mean, make use of it. And if, I mean, the Commission, I think we appreciate. You tell us, look, we got 3 Innovation Fund applications, but we have also facilitated 2 Clean Industrial Deal proposals, because at the end of the day, they are aimed at the same thing. It's not that it's a new thing. Everything, the Clean Industrial Deal call is about deployment of technologies to the market and use the Horizon Europe, as Antonio presented this morning, as far as we can go to help you and pushing for financial markets or whatever. Use it as much as you can. It will be appreciated by the Commission. Finally, to conclude, of course, we need to change. We need, I mean, we don't put the responsibility on you. Please don't think that I am tough with you. I have to be tough. I mean, this is ensuring good value for money, so you need to feel the pressure. The Commission needs more from you, and we need more from you, certainly. But still, we know that we also have to do many things on our side as well. So again, we need to change a bit the mentality. We know that the way research and innovation is being done for many years is fine, it's good, it's been very helpful and very promising, but if we want to move into competitiveness and new challenges that we're facing on a day-to-day basis, it's not going to happen only because we just put a different topic in the program. This requires a huge change of mentality. You are vectors of change as well. You are consultants, many of you. You are passing the message. We know it's difficult, even in the Commission. There is a huge reluctance also to change, to adapt to the new way of thinking. And this is something we have to do together. Again, you need to reach the industry, to the research organization, even to the member states, and to understand that to really make it happen, to deployment, and not only to make it successful project of the Innovation Fund, which is, of course, a tool, but the real goal here, I believe, is to make sure that deployment to market happens with or without the Innovation Fund, with other tools, with the new tools that somebody talked today about, the European Competitiveness Fund, InvestEU, many of other tools, funding from member states, this happens. And this will require a big change of mentalities, also from our side. So we are conscious of that. We are trying to do it, but help us a bit there, because this is, you're in a unique possibility here anyway. Again, of course, my final words, of course, is thanking, of course, CINEA and all of you. I know you're taking it seriously and you're taking a very strong commitment to this, and we really appreciate all your commitment, and we expect you to do more. Finally, what I wanted to say is just this little announcement, which is something that we just thought about it today. We will come back to you later on. We always have ideas anyway, and at least me. And normally my colleagues are also very happy to follow and to join with my ideas. Antonio and I were discussing today, and indeed we are in DG CLIMA offering a new tool that we have developed, also together with the help of CINEA. As I told you, we don't do anything without CINEA today. So we have a big contractor working for us as well, with a prompt. It's not a CSA. It's just a contract. It's a real procurement thing anyway, so very concrete. And they are helping us to map and to present basically what climate is doing, research Horizon is doing on climate. We are providing a number of policy briefs and recommendations, stuff like that, which is very visible. It's in DG CLIMA website. It's hosted there anyway. And what we decided, we have already produced a number of numbers on batteries, specific issues that we are analyzing. We provide some policy briefs there anyway. And I think, if you agree, and this is only a proposal for the time being, possibly one of the next policy briefs will be on you. Basically, it will be on deployment from research and innovation to the market. And you will be the key actors. So it will be the one case studies that we will be presenting, if you agree with me, will be the contractor, and I will be interviewing you collectively and independently, and you will be allowed to express your lessons learned, and to publish them in DG CLIMA website, possibly as a mean to reach this community that possibly we didn't reach up today. We are really still intending to reach as wide as possible. We're offering this possibility. I hope you welcome this idea. It's in theory something that should not take more time of you. I think we can consider it paid by the CSA's budget. Javier confirmed to me that we can do this, so they don't refuse to do it anyway. So it's not really demanding. We will do the thing. We have the website, and it's only basically allowing you to pass these messages together with us as your own results. You will take responsibility for this, not us. And also any tools that could be even made available could be also made available there. So we ensure also some long-term survival heritage of these 5 CSAs. When they're finished, they will be there forever until this website will be managed anyway. So this is the last news I wanted to present to you. It's an idea we have today, I promise, just inspired by your commitment. And if you agree with me, we just close the session, and I thank you again for your work. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Jose, for the propositions on the next steps and for summarizing so bluntly what we discussed today. So at this point, I would say this is the end of today's conference. I would like to thank all and every one of you, especially for coming during the strike day and for staying until the very end. I hope this has been quite interesting and fruitful, bringing its own discussions and interesting topics for each of you, independently from where you come from. So this said, of course, our contacts, I don't know if they're available here, but they will be made available in the, in the follow-up email. The slides will be shared, the main ones and the ones from the breakouts. And of course, I mean, if you have any doubts, any contacts, and you will be able to reach out to us. Thank you all and have a nice evening.